Let's go.
Tracking my little
Really, only
factories.
one word seems to come to mind. Tao matafaka tangi hanga ko au au o tamatea tsuri pu ka ka piki maonga horo nuku pokai whenua kita na tahu.
I think you just said play HOI4 Tommy in New Zealandish.
It's time to learn geography now!
Hey everyone, I'm your host Barbs.
Number one thing about New Zealand, obviously, I think about... This will be on YouTube. Hi, YouTube. I'm a bit sick, so yeah, I don't expect much. First thing about New Zealand you come to mind? Lord of the Rings, right? Lord of the Rings, man. Imagine a movie is so big, it's the biggest thing your country ever done. Then sheep. And then that's kind of about it. It's pretty much...
New Zealand is one of those places where a few people have made a powerful image for themselves. It's one of the last places on Earth to be discovered and inhabited by humans. And when they arrived, it was unlike anything anyone had ever seen. Mostly because there were these massive 12 feet tall bird monsters. We'll get into that in a bit. But first...
These birds really show that they are descendants of the dinosaurs, man. You can kind of see the correlation, right?
New Zealand is not only a key player in the ocean nations, but a geographic anomaly. As in, half the time when you look at artwork or decorations or newscasts or even educational books, New Zealand is forgotten from the map. Kiwis even joke about it. Even their government website 404 page not found website pokes fun at it. Anyway, New Zealand, or Aotearoa, is located in the southwestern Pacific Ocean, about 1,200 miles or 2,000 kilometers off the coast of Australia, and about...
Yo, if I fly from Sydney to Wellington, how much is that? Looks like 3 hours, 4 hours, or is it like nah? Okay, that's actually a lot, man. That's like 4 hours, right? 3 hours, 3 to 4 hours.
About 600 miles or 1,000 kilometers from the nearest major islands of Fiji, Tonga, and New Caledonia, meaning technically France is their closest neighbor. The country is made up of two main large islands, aptly named the North Island, or Te Ika a Maui, which makes up about 42% of the landmass, yet holds about 3/4 of the population, and the larger, yet less populated South Island, or Te Waipo Namu, at about 56% of the landmass. The remaining 2-ish% of the landmass is made up of hundreds of interior and outlying islands, 33 main ones that are either around the main two islands, like the largest one, Stewart Island, just south of South Island. Then you have the outlying island chains, like the northernmost Kermadec Islands, the easternmost Chatham Islands, and the sub-Antarctic southernmost point, the Campbell Islands. The country is a unitary state divided into 16 councils, 11 regional councils, and 5 unitary regional councils. The Chatham Islands act as their own special territorial authority. The second largest city, Wellington, is the capital, the southernmost capital in the world. However, Auckland up north is the largest city, which holds about 1/3 of the entire population of the country, with
1/3 of the entire population lives in one city, man. That's insane. Give us paused anyway.
The largest and busiest airport, Auckland International. Otherwise, Christchurch on South Island is the 3rd largest city and holds the second.
It's so sad how Christchurch, right? The only way someone like me, like a European, knows Christchurch is because of that shooting. It's so sad how one fucking idiot can take the reputation of the place away. Like, to most people, Christchurch is that's where the guy shot the people. You know, that's so sad if you think about that. 2 military factories. I'm not going to say no to that. I'm getting my first upgrade. Grand Battle Plan Doctrine. I'm going to be a lot about planning.
Busiest airport, Christchurch International. But wait, that's not all. The sovereignty claim extends even further, and then you get the 3 New Zealand realm territories and free association island nations. These are Tokelau, the Cook Islands, and Niue. Tokelau is considered a non-self...
What is that? What is that? What is that again? Sorry, what the fuck? Look at that water. This is paradise. Sorry, what is it?
States in free association with New Zealand. Finally, you have the Ross Dependency, which is New Zealand's claim to Antarctica, which of course under the Antarctic Treaty does not actually fall under their sovereignty, but you know, a lot of people like to say they have something they can't. Whew, for a nation that doesn't even show up half the time on maps, there's a lot going on here.
But wait, if New Zealand is just an island in the middle of the Pacific, which continent is New Zealand a part of?
Ah, good question.
Oceania.
That is a question that has kind of stumped cartographers for centuries. In the simplest sense, categorically, New Zealand is part of the broader region known as Oceania, which is basically just Australia plus everything else in Melanesia, Micronesia, and Polynesia. Technically, Australia and New Zealand together are called Australasia. However, it's weird because New Zealand doesn't lie on the same continental shelf as Australia. This has led to the consideration of New Zealand belonging to a newer subregion known as Zealandia, classified by some dude in the 90s as either a continental fragment or a microcontinent made up of a submerged continental crust shelf that expands all the way from New Caledonia.
Hey, when I had that in geography as a kid, it blew my mind that humans can determine the borders of tectonic plates. How the fuck do you do that? How do you determine the borders of a tectonic plate, man? That, like, what? It must be some kind of scanner or sonar or radar or some shit. Probably sonar, huh? They send waves into the ocean, they see these cracks or some shit.
Caledonia to an empty spot in the ocean just south of the Campbell Islands. 93% of Zealandia is submerged, with New Zealand being the largest protruding segment. Either way, however you want to categorize it, New Zealand is kind of strange.
Wait, go back to the self-governing island thing. Do they belong to New Zealand, or are they full countries?
Good question. It's kind of like this. Okay, guys, look, the British just kind of put you under my jurisdiction, so I guess that means you're all New Zealand citizens, okay?
Yeah, but we all have our own languages and customs and want to write a constitution for ourselves with free association status. We're basically countries in our own right, but under your overarching sovereignty, I guess.
Like, your military can come in for defense, but otherwise we got...
Dude, look at American pizza. It's so ugly. American pizza is so big, but so fucking out of content. American pizza represents the US, man.
Everything else covered.
I mean, guys, I have less than 2,000 people on less than 5 square miles of land on 3 islands.
Jeez.
I think I'll just become a dependent territory state.
All right, fair enough.
Holy shit, there was a hot girl on stream and no one made a comment. I am actually shocked. I was waiting for it. Every time that girl is on stream, at least 3 guys are like, oh, I am actually, wow. I am really impressed with you guys. What the fuck?
2 kind of countries with
boys.
loose ties and 1 dependent territory
she's
country
ginger?
with stronger ties. Got it.
Plus,
Wish,
hey,
man,
I
they will
became the
talk
first
to you.
completely solar-powered nation in the world.
Not exactly
Oh.
fully functional sovereign nation state by definition, but yeah, good for you. Some places of interest in New Zealand might include the world's steepest street at a gradient of 38 degrees, the National Museum,
Fuck
Auckland
that.
Sky Tower, you can actually jump off of it, the Rotorua Geysers in traditional Maori village, Rainbow's End and Splash Planet, the International Antarctic Center, Hobbiton, so many wine fields like the ones in Marlborough, 90 Mile Beach, which is actually...
Is Marlboro cigarettes from New Zealand? I never knew that. Is it? Is Marlboro from New Zealand? No. Marlboro is American, right? With the Marlboro Man and shit. Marlboro is American. Yeah, it's American. Yeah, they have the Marlboro Man, which is a cowboy.
only 56 miles, Waitomo caves with glowworms,
Wow, that's
frying pan lake, and the
Wow.
Meraki spherical boulders. And honestly, I could go on and on with all the natural wonders of this country, but that would take like 50 videos, and we gotta cram as much as we can in this one.
Stupid ass New Zealand should just build Helm's Deep in a 1-to-1 scale and we'll get so much more tourism, dude.
So let's just talk about all the natural stuff of New Zealand, shall we? Now, New Zealand is an outdoors country, world-renowned for its mind-blowingly wonderful landscape displayed in a number of films and movies.
Fun fact, the Lord of the Rings gave them so much publicity and tourism money that they even have a Minister of the Rings in their parliament.
Oh,
Wow, what? Dude, first of all, how epic it is that a movie is making your GDP go up, man, right? Like, holy, oh my god, a woman. That's insane. They have a Minister of the Lord of the Rings?
oh, do they now?
You wrote the
Jeez.
script for the episode, and I'm just reading off the teleprompter, so I figured you would know that.
I did. First of all, the country is located in the Ring of Fire on the convergence of the Pacific and Australian plates that creates the mountainous
Pacific is so fucking big, man. The human brain can even capture that shit.
Southern Alps of the Southern Island. Here you can find the tallest peak, Mount Cook or Aoraki, at over 12,000 feet or 3,700 meters, whereas across the Cook Strait, the smaller Kaweka Range can be found on the North Island. This, in return, makes the country subject to earthquakes and volcanic activity. There are about 83 known volcanoes of all
shit.
types, and the largest
like
active
Oceania's
one
Italy in
being
a way.
Ruapehu
Sicily.
on North Island. Otherwise, you can see other volcanic wonders like the dormant Banks
Wow, that looks
Peninsula
so
on
cool,
South
dude.
Island, and the eerily perfect circular Mount Taranaki on the west side of North
That's like
Island.
Mount
Just to
Fuji
skip
in a
away,
way.
you find the largest lake, Lake Taupo in the Taupo caldera, one of the largest supervolcanoes on Earth. From there,
Ring
the
of
lake is
Fire,
drained
Lord
by
of
the
Rings,
longest river of the
coincidence? I
country,
think
the
not.
Waikato. Now, New Zealand is interesting because due to its shape, there is no part of the country that is more than about 80 miles or so from the ocean. The flatter valleys on the sides of the mountains are where most people
if you're
live
a
and
New
produce
Zealander, you're
crops
kinda
and
an ocean
livestock.
guy.
Skip a little further west and you get the least inhabited and difficult to access, but most breathtaking part of New Zealand, the Fjordland. Steep cliffs plunging into the Tasman Sea, with Milford Sound being the most
It's just
popular.
like Norway with extra steps, man. I got the rifle, I get the 2 mils. Good.
spot and the only one accessible by road.
Misty
New
Mountains.
Zealand ranks as one of the top most landform diverse countries on Earth, having everything from alpine forests, glaciers, geothermal geysers. They even have a small desert in the middle of North Island. And on some of the coasts, you have tropical beaches with magnetic black sand containing magnetite. Seriously, I still have some. Check it out. This is from Piha Beach in North Island. Whoa,
That's
it
so cool,
sticks
man.
on. Now, the one thing about New Zealand that set it apart upon discovery is that other than 2 species of bat, the entire
Zealand is more
island
similar
had
to
no
Iceland,
mammals
actually. Yeah,
prior
makes
to
sense,
human
yeah.
encounter. Now, this is usually the part where Noah comes in, but he had a scheduling conflict. They couldn't be here today, so therefore, I saw Min Random Hannah. Hannah, take it away.
The country is a
Girl.
bird haven with over 200 species, over half endemic to New Zealand. And the funny thing,
I kind of want to eat this garlic to have it behind me, but it's gonna be hard.
many of which are flightless. It's like the flightless bird capital of the world. Species such as the kakapo, the world's only flightless nocturnal parrot, and they have more species of penguin than anywhere else on the planet. At one point a long time ago, they used to have the moa, a 12-foot tall monster until
That
it was
just shows you that used to be fucking dinosaur, man. I
hunted
swear
by
to
the
God.
native Maori to extinction.
Rip the moa.
Then you have
Rip
the
the moa.
national animal, the famous kiwi, a flightless bird which comes in 5 forms on both islands. Known for their hair-like feathers, long
How
beaks,
can you
and
leg
nostrils,
out?
making
Jesus
them some
Christ.
of the only few bird species that can smell. Otherwise, with flying birds, you have the kia, the world's only alpine parrot. And if you see one, they are curious creatures, unafraid of humans,
fucking cool,
that
man.
love to chew on shiny objects or rubber.
That guy looks
Seriously,
epic.
those guys tried to steal my stuff one time.
It's like
Outside
New
of
Zealand,
the
there's
bird world,
monkeys.
you can find reptiles like the turatara, which has a 3rd parietal eye on the top of its head, or the giant weta, the heaviest insect on Earth. Ugh. Resource-wise, the country is known for its huge dairy farming and livestock industry. Jade or Greenstone is a precious stone mined and sold here, as well often carved into jewelry or traditional Maori tools and ornament. Besides all that, though, much of the country makes money through tourism,
This shows
specifically
dinosaurs
outdoor
had feathers
tourism,
and not
specifically
scales.
Queensland on South Island. This
I mean, I'm not an expert, but it would make more sense that if you look at the descendants of dinosaurs, birds, that they probably had feathers. I mean, how would evolution go from scales to feathers? I mean, that's also possible. I don't fucking know, man. I don't fucking know. Prepared defense? I don't fucking know.
This place offers everything from skydiving, paragliding, and zorbing, which, by the way,
One sec, I need to just check what I need, man. Construction speed, and that's about it, okay.
the Kiwis invented. And speaking of Kiwi inventions, food! Kiwis are without a doubt seafood for
I cannot name a single fucking New Zealand food. The first thing I will come up with is lembas bread.
native species like gurnard, hoki, hake, hapuku, pawa, and crayfish are made into numerous dishes.
But that's just fucking English. I'm in fucking London.
Cooked,
That was literally London.
raw, smoked, steamed, battered, and fried with chips. If that's not your thing, some non-fishy Kiwi dishes might include things like roast lamb, savory meat pies, hokey pokey ice cream, Kiwi-style burger, manuka honey, kumara,
Manuka honey is so sick, man. I have it right here. Is that Manuka? It's not, no. I'm a huge fan of Manuka honey. It's a special honey that provenly in studies shows that it has antibacterial, it kills bacteria, man. And when I want a lot of coughing, I will take Manuka honey every single day, man. It's very expensive, though. If you go to a local market, it's always like behind a bar, and you have to. She needs a key and shit. It's really expensive shit, man.
LNP drink, pavlova
it's
cake,
very,
and one of the
very,
most
very fucking
traditional
good, man.
Maori dishes, hangi. And speaking of cultural tradition, we go to
They probably love that
Thank you,
rugby
Hannah.
shit.
Feel free to follow her on Instagram.
no problem.
Yeah, that's a thing now. Now, this is going to be the best part of the episode because the people of New Zealand, known as Kiwis, are the biggest treasure you'll find. First of all, the country has about 5 million people and often ranks as one of the top 3 ease of business index countries in the world.
Least corruption, man.
With the least corruption. At somewhere around 74%, the country is made
I
up
can feel it in
primarily
my
of
ears,
peoples of
I swear
European
to God.
descent, mostly of English, Scottish, and Irish ancestry. About 15% of the country is native Maori, 7% Pacific Islander, and the rest are mostly Asian of various countries like China, Korea, and Japan. Yes, by the way, it's pronounced
I actually
Maori,
feel
not
better.
Maori, Maori. They use the New Zealand dollar as their currency, they use the Type I plug outlet, and they drive on the left side of the road. Now, we all know that English is the most widely spoken language in the country with a distinct Kiwi dialect. To outsiders, it sounds just
never
like the
ate
Australian
guacamole
one,
before,
but
man.
they swear it's different. They have some distinct Kiwi words. Here's my Kiwi buddy Jared explaining.
Bro, it's a beaut. I'm off to the dairy. Is that us? Yeah, nah, it's a cracker, but it's ages and we're in the wops. Ig, you're taking the piss. It's close as. Chuck in your jandals and it'll be a piece of piss. Whatever then. Only if you stop rocking me up. Stoked. Sweet as.
Nonetheless, there are actually two other official languages of New Zealand, Maori and New Zealand Sign Language, making New Zealand the first country to adopt signing as an official language.
Sorry, I probably want to
Only
send
half
an
of
attention
1% knows it. Now let's talk about culture and the whole Maori thing. They originally come from about 100 or so iwi, or tribes or peoples, spread throughout both islands. Most in the north part of the country, the largest being the Ngapuhi at over 100,000 people. Their culture is a huge integral factor that plays into what it means to be Kiwi. I mean, instead of hello, you'll often hear the Maori word kia ora as a greeting. Most schools teach the Maori language in elementary years, and there are immersion schools as well. In addition, they have a few television channels and radio stations that speak almost entirely in Maori. Today, the majority of native speakers are found in the North Island, most heavily concentrated Burn and Bay of Plenty regions. And speaking of Maori, we cannot do this episode without talking about the HAKA. Almost everyone on the island knows one form of the traditional war dance performed by both men and women, known for its aggressive movements, loud chanting, and
The HAKA was such a big thing back in the day. When the internet... Eisleben ab 16:30 tot, Habibi. When the internet just started and videos started to become a thing, there was a video of the HAKA, right? Where the New Zealand team is... And it was so viral, man. The whole world was watching that video, man. That's where I know it from. It was so super viral, dude. The own gun, I'm gonna rush that. 75% bonus sounds actually mad nice.
Intimidating facial expressions. Very often it's performed at sporting events. The HAKA is not only used at games or as a means to intimidate, though. It can be used in a variety of situations, ranging from birthday parties, funerals, even weddings, where the people celebrate the union of two people happily, and everyone takes...
That girl gave me a vibe, dude. I'm telling you. Ay, ay, ay. That was a special lady, I'm telling you. You didn't see it? I have to show her again. Dude, that girl is on another level, man.
Even weddings,
I think
where the
we
people
could not
celebrate
handle
the
her.
union of two people happily, and
God damn.
everyone takes part in it, whether you are ethnically Maori or
gun.
non-Maori. It's a tradition that really unites everyone on the island, regardless of race. Pretty cool, right? And now let's talk about
That's pretty
tattoos.
cool, yeah.
And
I shouldn't
actually,
have talked shit.
let's have another co-host do this. Let's see, which options do I have? Who can I select? Let's see who's a good one. Why not Ken?
We're building up, guys. Content will start.
Ken, take it away.
You might occasionally come across someone with kirituhi, or skin art, or tamoko.
I think we
with
mostly know that
scarred
from
face
Raindrock
tattoos.
Johnson,
There's so
right?
much information that goes into this, but basically, Maori tradition did not have a specific written script. Instead, they use a...
I have an interesting question. When the great movement of people, like Africa had the first humans, right? And then how did that work?
expertise, athletic accomplishments, and so on. In
Taiwanese
other news, Kiwis are
Aborigines.
pretty athletic. You cannot talk about New Zealand without mentioning rugby. They are 3-time World Cup championship winners, and
one
often
garlic
when they
blow.
don't win, they place in the top 3.
Thank you, Ken. Feel free to follow him on Instagram. And now it's time to talk about history. In the quickest way I can summarize it, Bird Island, no humans. Maori come in from Polynesia, maybe sometime.
There we go. 3000 BC, like Asians from Taiwan, moved in. And the blue thing didn't matter anymore. That's so interesting. That's what I wanted to Google. 900 Anno Domini, they went, look, the Asians had like these shitty wooden boats, and they step by step will start colonizing over thousands of years, man. So the Asian, that was my question, the Asian descended.
Time around the 1200s, Maori Pa settlements established, Moa bird is hunted to extinction, tribal battles for land, Abel Tasman becomes the first European to come in contact. They kind of forget about it until the British come in by like 100 years later. For a while, they just kind of traded with the Maori, inter-tribal wars with the new weapons that they acquired by the Europeans, missionaries, British colony, New Zealand wars, Treaty of Waitangi, controversy with mistranslation, self-government within the British Empire, women's suffrage, massive immigration wave, World War I, they play a role in Pacific warfare against German-occupied Samoa, World War II, they play a role again in the Pacific, but this time against the Japanese in Papua New Guinea, Statute of Westminster Adoption Act, Muldoon years, 1980 reforms, 1990s and early 2000s, business really starts to boom, earthquake in Christchurch. Some notable people from New Zealand or of Kiwi descent might include people like Hongi Hika, Hone Heke, Te Puea Herangi, Maui Pomare, Potatau Te Ferofero, Ernest Rutherford, Kate Shepherd, Sir Apirana Ngata, Sir Edmund Hillary, Sir Peter Jackson.
Oh, Peter Jackson is from New Zealand. Dude, he must be such a legend in New Zealand then. I didn't know he's from New Zealand. I thought he's like an American. But he brought so much money to New Zealand with Lord of the Rings. Man, he must be a fucking legend in New Zealand. Genuinely helping the country massively with that movie, dude. Damn.
Jacinda Ardern, Russell Crowe, Jonah...
Russell Crowe? I thought Russell Crowe's Australian, man. That's like Ronaldo's big buff brother, man.
Omu, Sir Colin Meads, Dame Fina Cooper, Flight of the Conchords, Bruce McLaren, Catherine Mansfield, Lord, oh, and the meme page Dolan Dark, I was told. Yeah, quite a few cool Kiwis out there, which brings us to our next segment, the Kiwi Crew. They're friends. The Friend Zone.
But let's finish this first. I can raise my
Alright,
special
diplomatically
force limit.
speaking, New Zealand, for lack of a better term, is basically like Australia's Canada. They get along with nearly everyone, and unless if it's a rugby match, it's hard to harbor any animosity towards them. And even if it is a rugby match, it's like, okay, you
can
guys
act supposed to
win.
kill infantry.
Just do that HAKA thing again. First of all, as part of
Some
numerous
anti-tank will be
international
done, maybe.
organizations,
But
New
heavy
Zealand
AA
has harnessed an international network of alliances since its inception. For one, South Africa, Argentina, Uruguay, and Chile have had
cannot
close
believe how much
links
better I
as
feel
members
because
of the
of the garlic.
Convention for the Conservation of
Blowing my
Antarctic
fucking mind,
Marine
dude.
Living Resources. These 5 nations kind of act as like the southern gateways to Antarctica, and they hold a high level of responsibility when it comes to monitoring the South Seas. China has an interesting, kind of good, but kind of controversial relationship with New Zealand. Not only have Chinese immigrants been living in New Zealand since the 90s.
One thing I really learned in China when I was in China is that young Chinese people that are a bit educated, university, a bit open-minded, they realize their government is a bit, they are dying to immigrate to Australia and New Zealand, man. So many young Chinese I met, bright-minded, open-minded people, they just kept talking about, I want to move to, I'm going to finish this and get a job and then I go to Australia. They talk about that all the time. It felt like to Chinese people, going to Australia and New Zealand is like, it's like when poor people went to America back in the day, right? It's like their freedom move or something.
19th century, but in 2008, a bold move with
Just
a
on
free
Newsy,
trade
a Chinese
agreement
friend
was
called me from
established, and
Australia. He
today
works
they
now
are
as a
the
lawyer.
second largest import and export partner. The problem is the housing market. Many Chinese investors have bought out property in metropolitan
The
areas
Chinese own your shit. Back to the video.
that remain unused and empty for the purpose of real estate appreciation. This has left many Kiwis unable to live in the houses in their own country. This has frustrated many of them for a long time, leaving them to ask the government for reforms in foreign investment policy. As a former British colony, they've always been closely linked to the UK, and UK citizens, often Scottish, choose to live in New
have
Zealand.
to finish
Problem
these videos.
is distance. New Zealand is one of the furthest members in the Commonwealth from the UK, and over time the UK relations waned as the UK paid more attention to the EU. Nonetheless, they've grown up, don't need to hold mommy's hand anymore, and they can handle their own affairs. Then we get to the quadfecta, the USA, Canada, and Australia. There is somewhat of an unspoken, unbreakable bond between these 4. New Zealand has fought alongside the US in almost every major
Yeah, the
global
US and New
event
Zealand
from
are
the
kinda
20th
close. I
century
always
and
feel that.
on.
I
There
can't
was a
really explain
slight
it, but-
hiccup in the ANZUS Security Treaty in the 80s, in which
Anus?
they decided to initiate a nuclear-free zone in their territorial waters. Nonetheless, relations are still strong and they are considered one of the closest allies. Canada and New Zealand are very close though. They both think very similarly and are both Commonwealth nations, with the same queen as their technical head of state. Both share similar views on a variety of issues. Both are the smaller versions of a bigger neighbor that gets all the attention. Business, trade, and tourism is strong between them, and in a way they kind of love each other for all these reasons. When it comes to their best friend, however, as much as they love to poke fun, mock, ridicule, and spit on each other, they cannot deny that Australia
Trump came
is
and
the
put
closest.
tariffs on the main
Australia
exports
even has a
of
clause
New
in its
Zealand.
constitution that allows New Zealand to become a part of their country if they should ever want to, for
Oh, that's
whatever
cool.
reason.
That's
Although
fucking
New
cool.
Zealand is like, thanks, but no.
Fuck you.
Australia is not only the largest trading and business partner, but also has the closest history and culture.
Pizza,
The
keep
two
up,
have a
pizza
unique
instead.
trans-Tasman agreement that states that citizens of each country can migrate and have automatic residency. The two go hand in hand. However, when Australia
That's
isn't
cool.
looking, Canada kind of slips in and they kind of go off on secret dates.
He's
In
the
conclusion,
cuckold.
as humanity's last major expedition, you can imagine how the first settlers must have felt when they approached
Oh,
on
New
this
Zealand was
unknown
the last
world
major
of
human
glaciers,
expedition.
volcanoes, glowing
That's interesting.
caves, geysers, and giant 12-foot tall bird monsters. You don't need Lord of the Rings. New Zealand already is a real-life fantasy. Stay tuned. Nicaragua is
Very
coming up
interesting,
next.
very interesting. Congratulations, brother. You've seen this video till the end. Good job. Why not just click this video then now? You're already here anyway. Just click it.